First question, very simple. The deadline, September 30th. Talking about for this continuation, or for this additional grant. Has that deadline ever been shared before legislative committee or legislative body prior to today?
I'm not sure. I think that when we met before, we had an idea that it would be September, that we would be asking for the next level in September. I can't say with 100% assurance that date of September 30 was good.
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And I know, and so now we're in this very difficult position of time frame and continuation of a very important thing. I want to talk about specifics. I want to do it quickly. We can all agree we want an exchange for Arkansans, ran to Arkansans. We also like apple pie and baseball. Moving on, this is a very complex issue. In your polling data, when you met with people, did you discuss, you mentioned some of the things you did discuss. I want to know if you asked them about issues with the actual exchange that we're trying. I've got two questions. One over the actual exchange that we're going to, that you're asking us to implement, and then also this grant. I'll end with the grant. The question about the actual exchanges, you asked some questions about the commissioners and the 7 commissioners that are all appointed by the commissioner of the department with no legislative oversight. Did you ask them how they felt about that?
Not specifically. They were asked for different models, whether they liked the executive branch model, private board appointed.
Did you ask them how they felt about their health policy record being turned over to the IRS when they enroll in an exchange?
I think that probably did come up at some of the community meetings, because they were pretty much led by the constituents attending.
What was their reaction to that?
I wasn't at every meeting. We have a report from UAMS on that I could look to see. But I can assure you that the security is huge. I just got back from a meeting, and in fact, the federal hub where things pass will not even hold any data because of IRS regulations.
Did you ask them about the 3% increase on their insurance premium in 2015 that they'll see to pay for this exchange?
No,
we did not ask that.
Well, no, that's already embedded. You're all paying that now with premiums. That's just standard. And where you get your revenue growth, Burris, is this new business. If it works by plan, you're going to have 200,000 more people, and that's 2.5%.
And I appreciate that, and I'll wrap up that and ask my last question, because I guess the point is, it is very complex, and I don't want to narrow it to emotion or politics, because it's a lot bigger than that. And I think a lot of members in this room have some very significant problems with House Bill 1292 that was presented last session. I think there's some major deficiencies in the bill. There's other states that do it different, much better. We can do it better. We can't do it now because we're out of session. Probably the fiscal session is not an option either. So moving forward, putting that aside, there were real problems with that bill. Where foreign exchange ran for Arkansans by Arkansans. But on this grant specifically, I'll end with this. The deadline is September 30th. It's a level 1 planning grant, or is it level 2?
Level 1.
Level 1. It could be as high as $20 million. Is that correct? Can you tell, let me just
Of the 16 states that have received these already, the highest was $38 million, the lowest was 4.
So what I've been asking, I learned about this grant on Monday, and then I guess beginning yesterday, the question I've had is a budget. Can you tell me what you're going to apply for and where it's going to go to? How soon can we get that?
We're still doing the final calculations from the planning on what it would be. I think a lot of that will depend on this body, and what we're trying to do is get the least possible budget to move us forward. So we're guessing it would be in the neighborhood of $4 to $5 million, because it does not include the IT infrastructure.
I understand the difficult situation that you're in, but I ask you to understand the difficult position that we're in, which is go out on a limb on a guess of $3, $4, $5 million when I don't even have anything in front of me that I can tell people it's spent on.
What I can tell you, it would be spent on, a little bit of staff. There are 2 of us now. We would need a little additional staff, and primarily contracts to do the planning I outlined. We would have a contract to really plan the Navigator program, one for the certification, the planning certification and movement processes, evaluation plan, I mentioned Navigator communications plan. So we would use the planning funds to be ready, to have concrete plans ready to launch. should we accept to have a state-run exchange.
Last question, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your patience. Previously, we've been told 2013 was the deadline for progress, 2014 for implementation. This June 2012 is also new to me today. Has the deadline changed?
No. I do know that deadline has been mentioned in the past. That's the last opportunity to apply for level 2, which is the funding that goes through December of 14. Kind of the way it is if we have level 1 funding approval, the latest that can take us is through calendar year 12, so December 12. If we have authority and request a level 2, that would take us through calendar year 14, which would be the first full year of operations.
In the next 14 days, as we're having this discussion on the grant, I just think before there's any real discussion at all, speaking for myself as a legislator, I'm just going to have a budget with the numbers and where it's going to be spent in front of me before I'm asked to support anything. Thank
you. We can get you close on that, Representative. That you know, as he's alluded to, almost all of this money will be spent in private segments, not by state. You know, and then I've kind of missed my fault. I thought I had something brilliant to tell you, but now I can't think of it. But in any event, here's what it is. And I think, from your perspective, we've got here. You know, we can get this grant, and y'all are going to have the final, peer committee's going to have the final shots, will come right down here too. And to do the appropriation for a federal appropriation, that's a constitutional issue. So just A, if we get the input of the governors that we want to go forward, B, we're awarded the grant, we're going to ask for a lot less than's out there, it's true. And C, we can have the grant in hand, but still the legislative peer process to do the appropriation is in control. So I'm not giving away control through this process until you okay it through peer. And so I think that should be comforting, I hope, because I know everybody's concerned about this. And so I want the legislature to know that they're not turning anything loose here. They're not.